We're actually getting started. So hi
Gotcha.
everybody. I'm back with Ani Lippitz. We're going to talk about the great healing. That's what I call it. If you see any orange in my mouth, it's because I took a bite of carrot right before. Anyway, we're going to talk about the great healing, which is to me that is where we are right now, where everything that's been blocking the flow of our soul and the flow of our potential is coming out to be seen. That's happening not just personally. That's happening in every government institution.
Yep.
Culture, country. Yeah, so that's interesting. And then I want to talk about awakening. Let me get out of WhatsApp here. I want to talk about awakening symptoms. Some people call them ascension symptoms, metamorphosis symptoms. Like what
Geula symptoms.
EULA symptoms? Yeah, yeah. So Ani, that because we just did some work together. That I had a big a realization about my something that was someplace I was stuck in the past, like back in Crown Heights in 1991, 1992, 3, 4. Um, and then I like had a lot of fluish feelings. And interestingly, my husband, though he didn't do an actual session with you, started to have the same process, the same time frame.
Yeah.
And interesting how that works too. It's like it's kind of
Well, because
crazy.
you guys are like a connected soul unit. So something moves for you, it's going to start moving for him too. And because you guys are your conscious personalities are more connected to that level, so he's going to experience that consciously as well.
It's really interesting. I mean, this should really be a like summit. This should be a summit. Maybe we'll talk
Yeah.
about this at the summit, but it's not. We only have like half an hour. It's not going to do it justice. But like, what is going on? What is so? I wonder if it will. I used to ask healers these questions, and nobody really knows. But if that's the case, then I wonder how much we're going to be affecting each other. Like if children, if cousins, if people that maybe are from the same soul root, if like one person releases something or something that's blocking a flow, if it's going to have an impact on so many other people. I'd love to
Um,
know what you think about that. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, huge yes, because we know from Hasidus that's how reality works. And if we're doing the work to be able to tune into that level of reality as our just conscious baseline, this is how I process reality, this is what I'm plugged into, then you are going to start to see it. You are going to start to see it, or like even if you haven't gotten to those mystical levels yet, just be noticing different themes of stuff that are coming up in people's lives that are connected. Like let's say, oh, this certain aspect, this is super general, so I'm just going to say something super general, like, oh, I have a certain particularity with like my relationship with money, and that's something that God has been bringing up for me to deal with recently. And then all of a sudden, without having spoken to any of my close friends or my soul tribe about it, they're bringing up to me that same thing, or whatever their relationship is with money, is coming up for them, and it's something that they've been consciously processing. But then when
Yeah,
you develop that deeper intuitive sense, you can start to feel and anticipate how, whoa, if I actually deal with this thing in my life, I actually am starting to have like a beyond space and time sense of how it's actually going to affect this other person that I know is part of my soul collective. And then you actually see it happen. And I can't give details right now, but in a future live,
I
I
was
hope
shocked.
to. And I've
I was
seen
about
it
to ask you.
happening. I've seen it happening, but I cannot give specific examples at this exact moment. But I will, Leonetta, in a future live.
Great. Okay. Hopefully soon. Yeah, it's. I wonder what that like. I can feel energetically that maybe for certain of my kids, because we all have a common a trauma root that's really really strong. So, but for years also I've wondered, like in playing with energy healing, I've wondered if there are themes like if one person gets rid of fear, if they're like I wonder if these emotions that we have that happen eating from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, internalizing the snake, going into exile. I'm wondering if like fear, guilt, shame, blame, sadness, grief, regret, all that stuff. I sort of see it as bandwidths of energy that kind of
Yeah.
go across all population. I mean, we're all descended from basically from Adam and Eve and from Noah. So those things that were internalized, I really wonder how much we can grab hold of a piece of that in our own selves and pull it start releasing it in general. I mean, yeah, and I don't know if you've played with that at all. It's just something that I did actually also hear from an energy healer that I've worked with quite a bit, who's a protege of Dr. Bill Bengston. I don't, lights went off again. I don't know if you know Dr. Bill Bengston, but yeah, we're just hotspotting. I hope it's going to be okay. He basically, Bill Bengston wrote a book called The Energy Cure. He has very, very interesting healing modality, and he did. So interesting. The number stepped off on the when you stay on the hotspot. Okay, stay on the hotspot. Got to go with the flow. Anyway, he apparently has done experiments, Bill Bengston, on healing groups of people as opposed to one at a time. He did experiments with mice, basically, where he used his modality. They all got injected with a cancer gene or something. They all got sick, and then using his modality, they all got well. Like all his mice experiments were like 100% apparently success
Whoa.
rate.
I want
Yeah,
to order his book.
people are complex. This is what we're talking about. Our
Right.
consciousness. Mice don't have snake
We're
energy. They don't
massive.
have
Right.
but it is
We don't have multiple souls. Yeah. No, but it is fascinating. Exactly. And I think that it's much easier to see those shifts in your immediate soul collective, like the people who you know in your life, like this is my soul family, and the people who you're deeply energetically tied into, like your children and those people. But as each affects their immediate soul collective, it's going to affect the larger soul collective. And in the end, like everybody is going to have to still do their work. But like we've talked about before, the people who are like really forging ahead and getting in their own self closer and closer to the source. I think I heard you say this in your live yesterday, like the closer to the engine room you are, the controls, the greater the impact is that you're going to have. So we keep pushing ourselves and approaching these kind of archetypical collective levels more and more. We're going to be able to have make it so much easier for everybody else and release more tools to them and courage and reduce the amount of work they're going to have to do. But nobody wants to eat the bread of shame. Everybody does want to be able to be like, hey, I actually pushed through and I actually did that. I transformed that. I created that.
Do you think that's what everybody wants? I know that the Torah says that, but
At some, yes. No, not from our egos. And again, it doesn't mean that I have to suffer through these hardships and overcome them, but it does mean that there's a peckle of energy that I have to transform. Right. And it doesn't mean it has to show up in these, God forbid, horrendous, catastrophic ways, but it does mean that, hey, I have a packet of energy that is mine to work with, and it's going to be challenging, but that doesn't mean it has to show up in my life in the form of these, like, God forbid, catastrophic traumas. It should be, please God, going from good to better.
Yeah, amen. I heard in the name of the previous Rebbe from many years ago that we have to have challenges, but we can challenge ourselves. If we challenge ourselves to break through, to change our consciousness, to learn more Torah, to go beyond our boundaries, whatever way we challenge ourselves, we don't have to be challenged from the outside.
Right, because the challenges are there. If we're in a victim stance, it's like, because pain and suffering, and that's a legitimate piece of the experience. But we don't want to stay there. We want to say, why did this come? In order for me to generate energy and to bring out co-hosts, powers. So if I'm proactively working to challenge myself in good things, to keep stepping it up, not obviously in a way that I'm trying to escape feelings of unworthiness or whatever, or should. Right. But if I'm alive and I'm feeling my life force and I'm feeling my potential, then if I'm actually going to proactively continue to seek out the things within myself that need healing and to seek out the things in myself that need upgrades, then I don't have to be blindsided by some external circumstance to bring that out. And especially if I'm the deeper self-awareness we continue to cultivate, which includes being very willing to see the stuff in us that we don't want to try to see, we're not going to have to be blindsided by God sending us stuff to bring that out and force our faces into it, if I'm willing to have the humility to proactively seek that out.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And it makes sense because we've shifted state, not just now. I mean, now we're always shifting state continuously, but we shifted state back in 1992 when we shifted here in the Tzutzos from the elevation.
Thanks to you guys.
Well,
you took us from Makbesa to Mashiach to Yemais HaMashiach. Thank you.
I'm actually starting to own that, as you know. Maybe I'll talk about that tomorrow. I don't remember if I talked
Yeah.
about it already. I'm like, I don't remember what I say. Like I'm going to like when we're here,
Yeah. You go
just
into a
happens.
Chachma state and it flows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it used to be until 1992 that we were occupied with elevating sparks. Tikkun olam, bir netzutzos, those are two ways that Hasidus describes it, and that has to be done in the dark. That's like choosing
Yeah.
between good and evil. That's like elevating things that are lost in darkness. That's like finding God in places that it's painful. But we switched all the way back then,
Yep.
long ago. That's over 30 years.
Yeah.
Even if
Yeah.
you
The
say,
Rebbe said that we're no longer elevating sparks, but we are now doing this special service of pulling down the revelations of the Geula Maisa B'Pol Mamish. And he says that right in my birthday sicha for my birthday
which is
parsha of
that?
Vayishlach.
Vayishlach, okay.
Vayishlach.
That I've
Yeah.
learned that so many times, that particular
Yeah. It's about
sun and the moon.
Atmos and the moon. Yeah.
That is something that everybody needs to learn. Everybody needs to learn.
Yeah.
So many incredible mysteries there. But anyway, so yeah, Yichud Yichudim, the Rebbe says, which is
Yep.
unifying all things, finding God in all things, and unifying ourselves in
Yes.
parts of our lives, our trapped emotion, our deeper, the emotional roots of, that are traumatized, that the things we're suppressing, the God in everything.
Yep. Soul fragments, soul splits, all that good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just want to say one more thing about, I'm talking so fast, but because we have short time. And I want to say,
We have a short time.
I
Yeah.
want to say hi to the people who are taking out of their time on, it's a busy time being with us live. I love it. And we appreciate you so much. Makes such a difference when you're talking with people together. And we maybe during Pesach, Ani, not to put you on the spot, but maybe we could do a live Zoom. Hey, Gila, maybe you too. Maybe we could do a live Zoom and just have everybody come on and barang. Would you be into that?
That would be awesome.
I think we should maybe aim for it. Anyway, so I wanted to say one more thing about Dr. Benston, just because we're talking about the great healing. He's done studies more recently on where the energy healing works better, if you do it one person on one person, many people on one person, or one person on many people. And he discovered, at least the last I heard, that it's one person to many, one healer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? It's almost like
yeah, I've been actually naturally drawn to wanting to do more group work. We started doing some couples work, but I also like the idea of multiple practitioners working on multiple people at once, because like, as we've experienced, that like two practitioners who have a good rapport and a good vibe together can open up a whole different field and really work off each other.
Definitely true.
And that's where I've been pulled in my own work.
I wonder, though, it would be maybe worth it to try working with several people at the same time on a common issue.
Yes.
And see what happens. Because it was interesting. Like, I don't think it was
that would be amazing.
that what he found. I think he was surprised by it, as far as I understand.
Right. That would be so awesome.
Yeah, and maybe you're getting closer to one of the things that
I
found in like working with groups for so many years. I have found that one of the main reasons that it's so hard for us to see our, shadow side, however you want to put it, is because we think that there's something wrong with us. Most of us have a feeling that we're fatally flawed. Anybody here feels fatally flawed? Maybe put FF in the chat so we can see it. And when you realize that, wait a minute, the person next to you also has this, thing they're ashamed of, or they're afraid to do things, or they feel really bad about their past, or they feel like God doesn't love them, or they feel, afraid of everything and just are trying not to show it. When you realize it's like one snake with tentacles in every single person, 8 billion people, personalized. So don't tell, hide. That's what happened in the garden.
Right. And that's how this stuff perpetuates itself, is that it has to be a secret. Nobody can know about this. This is horrible. You're going to be rejected and existentially obliterated. And, the only way for any of this to heal is to come to light. And that's why, like, there is an aspect of radical acceptance that was deeply perpetuated by the Rebbe for spiritual healing purposes, for the purpose of being like, let's just purge all of this and get it all out. Like, we have to be able to face and deal with everything. And that includes being able to see our collective shadows and the way the tentacles are working in other people as well, without judging them or puzzling them as like, okay, you understanding, like, you're still a being with a soul and a story. And also I see that there's this tentacle in you,
Yeah, you can't really
spreading
see,
its
you
stuff
can't apparently,
through you.
the principle is you can see things. Well, okay. So what I understand is when we get triggered by someone else, it's always something in us, maybe not in that form. And
But not a direct
what?
necessarily.
Right. But
Not a direct
so
reflection
here's the thing.
necessarily.
Sometimes we're not doing the same thing as the other person, but something in us wishes we could.
Yeah.
If we see
Yeah.
someone bragging and it makes us so, who is that person? You know, this happened to me once. It's autobiographical. And I was happened to be in a seminar on consciousness at the time. It was many years ago. And I'm like, why? So I was looking like, what is it in me that like, I don't do that. And then I'm like, oh no, I would not do that. I go to the nth degree not to do that because it seems so uncool. And
Right.
I'm just out there doing it. So I hated it
Right.
until I realized, once I realized that where I have that in me, whether I'm
Right.
out acting it out or the opposite, that it clears that. It's just a super helpful. So when we're
Yeah, totally.
triggered by
But then there's the righteous, but there's also the righteous anger piece where you see something that's like actually evil and actually like a stira to other people, like a blockage to other people's souls and like
yeah.
God's truth manifesting in the world. There's also the righteous anger piece where it's like, we're not going to pretend that's good because
Yeah,
that's not good.
no, but it's different. It's different. The first,
Yeah, no, it's a totally different thing. You're right.
my example is it's like Bree's resentment. You want to take the person down,
Yeah.
like sinas chinam, you know, sort of thing. The righteous
Yes.
anger,
Yes.
with the I think the upgrade there, I think the test there is, are you going to be in truth? Are you going to dare to, whatever that means to you? When we see there's righteous anger, when we see something that needs to be taken care of, are we going to take care of it or not? That's the test there. But it's not
Exactly.
a feeling of resentment.
Yep.
It's resentment. You're suppressing.
Exactly. You're correct. Yes. Yes. Is that right? Because righteous anger motivates us to right action.
Yes.
So if I want to like sit and complain, then if I'm just going to sit and complain and like, oh my God, everything's so messed up, then like you may be correct that what you're seeing is messed up, but you're just cucking in that for the drama.
Right.
But if it's going to move you to right action of like, well, how do we take care of this? Then yeah.
Even there, you could find something. I know that there's stories of the Rebbeim that used to have to find something in themselves, a little ne'ein, a little
Yes.
something.
100
to help.
100%.
Yeah.
There's always going to be something for us to find.
And it's
but the big thing, I bring this out because of the fact that those who are perpetuating wrong things, wrong systems, wrong ways of doing and being in the world, they gaslight you by being like, well, you're just upset because of like, it's your stuff. And sometimes like, no, you're actually doing something really wrong. And I might have my own stuff, but that doesn't mean that what you're doing is correct or should be allowed to continue.
Right. But where we have our power is when we're not upset, when we're just like, that's it. No.
Yeah.
No, it has to, everything.
Icon.
And that's why one of these
Let's
topics for today is freedom. The more freedom we have, sometimes the freedom is seeing ourselves and freeing ourselves. Sometimes it's forgiving ourselves, letting ourselves express, brag in public, or, or just at least even realizing when you see the core of the trigger. My experience is you're not triggered anymore. You might be then free to take action.
Right.
But it's not.
Right. Exactly.
It's not a reaction. Yeah.
Totally. And also the other thing is that like the other side, they want to blame you for reacting, and they want to deflect. They want to deflect from what they're doing by being like, well, like, but you're triggered by it. So like, you're clearly not on a high level. So, and I've experienced that so many times of people being like, it's been like the message that has been shot at me so many times has been like, that's not nice that you talked about that. And it's so much worse to be not nice than it is to be actually evil. Yeah. That's the narrative that so many of us who are people pleasers and fawners and our Nefesh HaBahamis is a little shepsela, is little sheep. Like the tov of the Nefesh HaBahamis has been so exploited to turn us into little sheep. Like the message, oh my God, you're right. It's so much worse to be not nice than it is to be actually evil. Right? To be talking about the stuff that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's not nice. And it's so much worse to be not nice than it is to be evil. Are you kidding me?
I mean,
and that's where I had to
conscious of it. It's not like we're making a conscious choice. Should I fight evil or should I be nice? Most of the time it's coming from fear.
No, right. It's our trauma programming. It's 100% coming from I'm saying that's how we've been exploited, as I'm so of someone thinking I'm not nice, so I'm not going to say anything.
Yeah.
And that was, that was a huge piece of what I had to get past in order to, be willing to come on.
Look, the bottom
public and
line
things.
is that's the victim. That's the
Yes.
victim. And
Yeah.
I think at the core, all of this is, am I going to be a victim of something outside of myself, something inside of myself? And I do, without having like thought this through like incredible detail, I would bet that there's nothing outside of ourselves that victimizes us if we're not victims to something inside of ourselves.
I would 100% agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that.
Which makes us all the more important because we're here to be leaders,
Yes.
especially Jews and non-Jews who are connected to the
Yes.
Torah, or people who are in leadership roles in, with whether they know it or not. Like somebody wrote, it's biblical. Q said it's biblical.
Right.
So whether we know it or not, we are all in this incarnation in order to lead in some aspect, to bring out some kind of biblical, quasi-biblical result. So we can't do
Yes,
that
which
in a
would be
way.
like anything that's biblical would be like spiritually primordial and archetypical. So we're
Yeah.
here to like manifest those qualities. Yeah.
Also true. Also true. So I want to know I want to ask you now more about managing. If you guys have questions, please, by the way, feel free to ask. Nobody asks questions, but I'm looking at the comments and I love them. So what about symptoms? Like looking at my own situation, like right now, okay, so I had the session, I had this big release. I did have flu-like symptoms which went away, but my husband had a re-triggering of, just based, I guess, on the fact that I had this healing experience. He had a re-triggering of something that's been chronic on and off for the last 7 months that might have still like a viral or bacterial component. Like, how do you manage, and it's in the chest, in the lungs, I guess, the grief, the right lung. Anyway, I'm just asking, how do you manage symptoms? You just keep doing healing work? Like people are feeling
The literal symptoms. Yeah,
sorry?
the literal like physical symptoms you're saying?
Both. Let's talk about it in general, but yeah, let's do
Yeah,
physical.
the key to everything is just self-awareness, because right now that's what we're doing, is coming deeper and deeper into self-ownership, which can only come from deeper and deeper self-awareness.
Yeah.
So taking steps to really get the tools to, first of all, understand that a symptom is a message coming from some aspect of your consciousness, of your psyche, from God, saying, I need you to go deeper. I need you to see something else. I need you to come into a new chamber of yourself, your reality, and transmute some energy and take ownership of something else. Take ownership of a different capability that I'm trying to give you. And so that awareness is number one, being willing to interact with what's happening to you on that level from that perspective. So then secondly, we want to do everything we can to have kind of support people, whether it's friends, whether it's practitioners that we're working with, people who can help come into our field and open a greater field for us and give us that insight, because everything is about the insight and the self-awareness. And the ability to start interacting with ourselves in reality on subtler levels.
So all the healing that you do, when you do emotional clearing, do you always tell the person? Does the person always like get information consciously, or does the clearing happen? I know you could work at a distance. Obviously, all energy healing at a distance.
Yeah. So I mean, my goal is to be able to ultimately fire my clients, because I've been able to give them so much self-awareness that like they don't need me so much anymore. Like my goal is not that people should become addicted to working with me and coming back to me and things like that. My goal as a practitioner is to give people enough self-awareness that it's like, okay, yeah, you can do a lot of this processing on your own. You can experience something and go within yourself and say, where's this coming from? And then if you're coming up against a true existential blind spot, then you reach out to somebody. But I want everybody to have their baseline processing at this level.
But if people aren't doing that, for example, you could use the emotion code on somebody who has no idea you're even working with them.
Right, 100%.
Right?
There has to be 100%. There has to be energetic permission to connect to the person. But yeah, I mean, if you just need to like start, like just simply clear a symptom and help somebody be functional, fine. But the longer term, like that's fine. That's kosher. That's beautiful. That's amazing. You're helping somebody. But the longer term goal is to give the people you're working with the keys to their own self-awareness. And so you can, yeah.
But what do you think it is that makes it possible for you to witness something in the person's life, past life, whatever, and that clears it for them without their consciousness having, I'm talking about like structure, it's just structurally, principles of creation. Why would
Right.
this is a question I've had for a long, long time. Like someone else can
Yeah.
witness you, or I can witness someone and then they change, even if they don't witness themselves. Why is that?
Right. I think it's because when you're able to actually witness from that level and you're actually witnessing something and not projecting or fantasizing, that you're tapping into the part of yourself that is one with the other person. And that because you're coming from that deeper level of oneness, where like you and me, we're like the same thing in this field. At this level, there's a deeper level of oneness. And I think
Uh-oh. Did we both freeze? Did I freeze? Did Ani freeze?
that's what it is.
You froze, or maybe I froze. I don't know which one of us
Did
froze.
I get cut off, or did you hear what I said?
That's good. I hear you now. Do you hear me?
Okay. Yes. Did you hear what I said about that?
Not every word, but maybe everybody else did.
Okay.
I missed about 2 sentences.
It was just me saying over and over again in multiple different ways that it's because you tap into that level where you're you're more one with the person at those deeper levels. And that's why I think witnessing or clearing can work, even if the person, but again, like the key is to give people deeper self-awareness, because otherwise the issues that they're dealing with are going to keep reoccurring if they haven't become aware of their own patterns and now have the conscious tools to shift or change those patterns, or at least to make the choice.
Yeah, I'm sure not everybody has to go to the same depth. I mean, the Mitzvah Rebbe talks about.
Yeah, no, 100%.
But it is interesting.
Because all of our souls are kind of different shapes and all that good stuff.
Right. Different configurations of the same basic elements. It does seem like more and more quickly realizing. So like, okay, do you think I should tell a quick story of the tooth pain that I had? Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's really impactful.
We don't have much longer for this.
And then we have to pop off.
Yeah. So I ran by Ani that 2 nights ago I had tooth pain where to be quite blunt, I had teeth replaced, like it was implants, not teeth. So I'm like, and years ago, I'm like, what is that? And she asked me if I had any kind of, I don't remember, trigger emotional thing that happened. And I remembered that it was at night when I kept having this recurrent dream about my father, who passed away in 2011. I never dream about my father. And I mean, I'd love to dissect that dream. Things I remember, not now, but like we were in the top story of some tall building and there was a lot of softness and love, which there wasn't so much when I was growing up. And then I remembered that, I mean, having those teeth done was very traumatic for me. And I had a very abusive oral surgeon who gave me a drug that I have an allergy to, and because there was a lot of pain, and I think there was anyway, long story short, I started thinking about it, and within a few minutes it was gone, which is really interesting. And I mean, it's not the first time I've seen that, but it just seems faster and faster. Do you find that?
Yeah,
easier?
100%. I've been saying this. I remember like asking in the Emotion Code Practitioners group, maybe like last spring, almost or maybe at the end of the summer, I was like, are you guys noticing that the results are getting faster? And like people were like, yeah, it's been pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've heard of.
So there's been like an acceleration. Yeah,
I've heard Dr. Brad Nelson said that recently also. He said he thinks that we're coming to really soon when it'll be almost nothing to heal things, just with our consciousness, and then eventually with no tools, just with prayer, just with making a connection. And I mean, it does seem like,
and that's really the highest. That is the highest level, is to be able to just literally is to heal with tefillah, with just connecting. Yeah.
Well, it's exciting. So is there anything we didn't say? I just wanted to talk about this whole topic. I think we covered a lot in a short time.
Yeah.
Awakening symptoms.
Yeah, this was a good one, if I do say so myself.
Okay. I hope to see you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much. And I hope everybody's Passover preparations are going well. And I'll see you. I'm just looking to
see you next time.
What the stream is. I'm still in my hotspot. Okay, take care, everybody.